Chapter 51. Demands. A silent procession advanced toward the coastal sanctuary, cloaked in tension and shadow. At their helm walked a figure whose presence once stirred awe on distant battlefields of sentinels shaped by secret wars. Though their insignia bore the mark of Hydra, their intent was veiled in something far deeper. They approached not a man, but a mythi who had turned away nations, mocked armies, and silenced legions with a gaze. The whispers called him Whitehair, the one whose defiance of the world had become scripture among the fearful. His power was said to dwarf the ambitions of empires, a vessel through whom Hydra's long-sought dominion could at last be realized. Yet even in pursuit, they dared not come armed, for mortal weapons were but toys in the eyes of such a being. They crossed the threshold with reverent steps, only to find him already waiting seated, languid, eyes gleaming with distant stars. A yawn escaped him, casual and disarming, before his voice, smooth and resonant, slipped through the air like a judgment foretold. Hydra? Oh no, this is S.H.I.E.L.D. What do you want with me? The words rang out, calm and sharp, like the toll of a distant bell. Crossbones froze, caught off guard, not just by the recognition, but by the unspoken truth that this enigmatic figure already saw through Hydra's veil, knew of the rot coiled within S.H.I.E.L.D's foundation. That secret was supposed to be buried, unrevealed. Steeling himself with disciplined breath, Crossbones stepped forward and spoke with reverence. "We come with an offer, to invite you into Hydra." But the weight in the room was shifting, tilting towards something far greater than any prepared speech. The agents flanked him, trained and lethal, yet visibly strained each pulse a silent drum of fear. Then Alex smiled, slow and deliberate, the air around him almost humming. "I want the Tesseract and the obelisk. Bring them to me," he said, voice quiet yet unshakable. "And perhaps then I'll entertain Hydra's little dream." Crossbones' features tensed with unease, the weight of the request surpassing his mandate. With a bowed head, he murmured, "I must seek guidance from those above." In the hush that followed, he communed with the shadows. Pierce answered, "Sir, the one called Alex consents to join us, but his price is steep. He seeks the Tesseract and the obelisk." A silence stretched thin, then pierced by Pierce's voice, now cold with the gravity of ancient memory. "The Tesseract and the obelisk?" Darkness fell across his expression as visions of wartime experiments flickered Hydra's hand, stretching deep through decades, feeding on the boundless power of the cube to forge instruments of dominion. Though now veiled beneath the crest of S.H.I.E.L.D., the relic remained Hydra's sacred flame. And to surrender it to that white-haired enigma was to risk unraveling the very threads of their hidden dominion. It could not be done. Just as Pierce prepared to deny the request, a shadow crossed his mind: the obelisk, that ancient relic which turned the unworthy to stone with but a touch, sparing only those marked by an unseen covenant. Unlike the Tesseract, the obelisk held little tactical worth for Hydra, but it carried weight and judgment. Perhaps it should be offered to the one they called Whitehair. If he endured its touch, he would be a herald of strengthened, unwilling yet potent force for their dominion. But should he fall, petrified like the others, then the chaos he embodied would be sealed in eternal silence. With calculated urgency, Pierce whispered to Crossbones, "Tell him we release the obelisk now, but the Tesseract remains beyond reach until Hydra's will shapes the world entire." His promise was hollow, a veil to buy time. Crossbones delivered the words to Alex, who responded with serene acceptance. Of course, cooperation was never his design. To acquire a new wellspring of power was a gift of fate, too tempting to deny. Yet as Crossbones dared to believe the pact had succeeded, his hope shattered at the figure before him, dissolved and reformed within breath's reach. Frozen in place, only his mouth could move, while the world around him seemed to vanish into stillness. He stepped forward and demanded, his voice laced with confusion and disbelief, "What are you doing? Aren't we allies now?" But the figure before him, Alex answered not with comfort, but with a smile that had twisted into something darker, almost divine in its menace. "Allies we may be, but reverence is owed even among the faithful. You trespassed upon sanctified ground unbidden, and penance must be paid." The intruder faltered, glancing around, clinging to certainty. "But isn't this Stark's villa?" he asked, grasping at names like lifelines. Alex's gaze held no mercy. "If I declare it mine, then so it is," he said, as if his word alone reshaped reality. The protest died in the man's throat as a sphere of radiant force, humming with unspoken laws, bloomed in Alex's hand and floated forward like judgment incarnate. Before fear could take full root, the sphere entered him silent and merciless. Light flooded his form, divine fire unraveling flesh from within, until only ashen memory remained. In the breath between moments, it was over. The others watched, stunned, as the echo of unseen power faded, and silence reclaimed the space. As they turned to flee, the air itself tore apart. Countless spatial rifts erupted like divine judgment, erasing all within 5 meters of him into crimson vapor. not a trace left to mourn. With a flick of his will, gravity obeyed, lifting the lone surviving communicator into his palm. His voice, calm and commanding, whispered through the channel, "Deliver the obelisk with haste, and do not test the patience of one who holds dominion over the unseen." On the other end, silence trembled beneath a veil of fury, yet dared not speak against him. Then came the voice again, lethargic, laced with apathy and subtle menace. "Oh, and next time, pierce, knock." As the line went dead, Alex's gaze shifted beyond the fractured walls of the villa. Hovering in the gloom, a figure clad in radiant armor watched from above, twin stars blazing in his eyes, their cosmic glow heralding destruction. Alex's smile curled, a serpent of curiosity and challenge. The game had changed, divine forces stirred, and things were about to become truly fascinating. All the more reason he must be cast out. Clutching the enigmatic device bestowed upon him by an agent cloaked in secrets, the Eternal, known as Ikaris, ascends into the heavens, eyes burning with resolve as he soars toward the western coast where the veiled one white-haired and blasphemous was last glimpsed. His descent is swift, and the moment his feet touch the earth beside the sea, his gaze meets chaos, the defiler of form, drenched in the cries of innocence. But the aberration sees him too smiling, wicked and unshaken. The sacred oath of the Eternal stirs within Ikaris. This being must fall, or their covenant crumbles. His voice, ringing with judgment older than stars, proclaims the sentence, "You, cursed offspring of unclean legacy, shall be undone." Though whispers echo through mortal news feeds of the white-haired one's dominion, Ikaris bears no fear. He is the flame forged by cosmic order, unshakable before the warped spawn of deviance. Yet far above, hidden in the cold, metal halls of the great floating fortress, eyes watch Nick Fury, furrowed in doubt, and Coulson, steady but grim. The moment has come. Two forces anointed by power beyond comprehension have touched, and fate demands confrontation. Fury asks, his voice low with dread, "Can the Eternal triumph over the aberration?" Coulson's reply carries the weight of prophecy. "If he walks alone, he shall not prevail. The veil of space shall not break." But with the disruptor crafted by unseen minds, all the more reason he must fall. Grasping the arcane device bestowed by an agent of veiled allegiance, the Eternal ascends skyward, his mind fixed upon the last whisper of the silver-haired aberration. With divine velocity, he cleaves the heavens, his path carved toward a coastal sanctuary veiled in mortal indulgence. There, amidst the sea's lament, the Eternal Revesto witness carnage unfolding beneath the hands of the one touched by twisted Genesis. Their eyes meet. One radiates judgment, the other unholy delight. The Eternal's voice resounds like prophecy, condemning the deviant spawn to annihilation. For without his fall, the ancient covenant remains shattered. Though the world quakes beneath tales of the mutant's wrath, the Eternal remains unshaken, sovereign among his kind, scorning the notion that corrupted blood could eclipse celestial might. Yet beyond the veil, watchers gaze unseen guardians aboard the floating sanctuary where silent instruments trace their descent into conflict. As destiny breathes between them, one voice speaks above the storm, "Can the divine outmatch the void born?" And another replies, "Not without the artifact that rends the very fabric of space." Though Coulson speaks with conviction, Fury's gaze remains cold and skeptical. Even if Reed Richards dares to wield his spatial disruption device against the white-haired mutant, the shadows in Fury's mind whisper otherwise. He senses that the adversary veiled in mystery and malice harbors powers yet unseen, transformations yet unraveled. None can fathom what lies dormant beneath those pale strands, or how far his essence has strayed from what once was. When the Eternal Warrior first descended, Alex recognized him instantly, hollow echo of ancient myths wrapped in cosmic energy. Ikaris soared with blazing eyes and celestial might. Strength, speed, defense, flightal reflections of a forgotten archetype. Yet Alex knew, these were but pale imitations, stripped of divine fire, lacking the radiant field of true supremacy. And still, Ikaris remained formidable, the fiercest sentinel among Earth's hidden pantheon. When their paths crossed, Alex did not flinch, hungered. At last, a vessel worthy of testing the full magnitude of his reborn technique, now awakened to its fourth level. The lesser agents were never meant to channel such depth, such cursed infinity. But when Ikaris dared to speak with arrogance, something ancient stirred in Alex, the silence before judgment, the breath before the void. Who does this insignificant mortal presume to be, daring to speak to me in such a tone? Without uttering a word, Alex vanished, as if space itself recoiled from his presence, reappearing in a breath before Ikaris, who had not yet grasped the weight of what he faced, only to be struck with a blow laced in black-red fury. Thunder cracked as divine lightning trailed the arc of Alex's fist, distorting Ikaris' noble visage with blood and revelation. The Eternal was cast from the sky, his fall piercing the veil of sound before vanishing into the ocean's depths, the waters erupting in a tower of white. As he sank beneath the waves, stripped of certainty, a single tremor echoed through his immortal thoughts. Who am I? Where have I been cast? And what unseen power judges me so? Yet even now, the divine resilience of the Eternals held firm. He rose from the sea, suspended between heaven and earth, eyes narrowed upon the white-haired herald of the unknown. This being, cloaked in silence and storm, wielded a force far beyond prophecy. In defiance, Ikaris summoned his final gambit. The spatial disruption device screamed to life, warping the firmament as cosmic radiance surged from his gaze. Let the white-haired mutant be caught unaware, let space betray him. The beams tore through the shifting veil unchallenged, destined for the heretic who dared mock the cosmos. But as triumph curled at Ikaris' lips, his heart froze, for the white-haired mutant was still unshaken. Watching him not with fear, but with quiet, unholy amusement, the celestial radiance surged forth, cascading toward the white-haired one. Like judgment from the heavens shed, not a flicker of harm touched him. Instead, he drank in the cosmic torrent as though it were life itself. The one called Ikaris stood frozen in dawning dread, his certainty unraveling, for he had not foreseen that this being, this vessel cloaked in void, could turn divine wrath into sustenance. His arrogance melted into the ether as he summoned the totality of his eternal essence, weaving himself deeper into the cosmic breath that binds stars. But though his spirit burned with the will to endure, his voice rang hollow as he spoke. You are powerful, but still, you must perish. The white-haired seer beheld him with 6 unblinking eyes that pierced beyond flesh, into the golden nucleus cradled in the eternal Sula-crafted spark of infinite design, potent and stable. Unlike the wild divinity of the stones, within it lay an answer, a key, an offering. For even his cursed technique could not yet devour the chaos of the Infinity Stones. But this he could consume, and if he did, the arcane heart of his creation could reach replaced by a living core that would burn for lifetime. Yet to seize it meant tearing down a being forged not of earth, but from the breath of celestials. Bone like star-forged steel, flesh like tempered flame. A trial ordained not by fate, but by the one who dares to challenge the dominion of gods. Do you like this personality? Among the immortal kin shaped by the celestials, Ikaris stood as a bastion of divine mihi, strength and defense towering above his brethren. Yet it was his flight, swift as the whisper of prophecy, that set him apart, defying pursuit even by Alex, who now grasped powers born of evolution. The Eternal's armor, a sacred relic in itself, radiated resilience beyond mortal comprehension, fortified by a body whose endurance surpassed the rage-bound Titan. To confront such a being was no mere battle, it was a test of cosmic will. Yet Alex, having ascended through the awakening of his limitless technique, dared the impossible. Black flash coursed through him, casting him into the zone where time bent and perception deepened under the gaze of 6 eyes. With the precision of divine intent, he struck unseen, unyielding. Though warned, Ikaris faced him head-on, blinded by pride. Their fists collided, and from that sacred clash burst lightning of black and crimson hue, rending the air with judgment's fury. The earth groaned. Man's creations crumbled. Waters receded in reverence, only to return as waves like walls, heralding the rebirth of dominion. As the clash of powers raged on, the land trembled beneath their feet, torn asunder by the unrelenting storm of force. With each exchange, Ikaris felt the weight of disbelief tighten around his spirit, for the one before him did not yield, but grew ever stronger, siphoning the kinetic wrath of his attacks into himself like a celestial abyss feeding on divine flame. The white-haired one, eyes cold and endless, moved not with desperation, but with the certainty of one who had walked beyond the veil of mortality. Slowly, the fire of arrogance within Ikaris dimmed, replaced by a sacred dread, for no blow could pierce the veil of his foe's defense. All energy offered was devoured and sanctified into greater strength. Yet even as power shifted, no true victory was claimed for the white-haired one's speed. Though fearsome to mortals, remained below the Eternal's own divine swiftness, and even the black-red singularity he conjured could not break Ikaris' immortal flesh so long as it spared the head. This impasse lulled Ikaris into a dangerous peace. The mutant's dominion was vast, but with the right congregation of allies, the ritual of his undoing could yet be completed. Ikaris did not believe he could withstand a true rewriting of reality, a sacred touch upon the molecules themselves. Thus, with the pride of a seraph and the wisdom of one who has seen kingdoms fall, Ikaris turned from battle, not in fear, but in foresight, to summon judgment that might bend even the abyss. After a final clash beneath the veiled skies, he turned to depart, the silence echoing like a benediction. Yet in that sacred pause, his instincts whispered danger's adversary, the white-haired mutant, had vanished once more, as if swallowed by the very folds of reality. In a breathless instant, he reappeared, his luminous blue gaze ablaze, devouring the distance with predatory intent. After an eternity of combat, Alex had finally unveiled the fracture in Ikaris' divine defense. The farther the Eternal strayed from the device distorting the veil of space, the more its grip waned. With his six eyes recalibrating to the faltering interference, Alex invoked his Limitless technique at full magnitude. A swirling abyss of black lightning, traced with hues of red and blue, condensed into a trembling violet singularity in his Palma celestial wound-given form. Forsaking lesser paths, he embraced rapid spatial ascension, flickering across dimensions in sacred leaps that battered the body but delivered godlike swiftness. And then, in a moment outside of time, he stood before Ikaris, the violet singularity tearing through the realm's fragile seams, striking his frame with divine precision. The Eternal's vaunted flesh armor wrought by cosmic architects was as nothing. Celestial plating, nuclear-enduring flesh, and God-forged muscle fell to the void's touch, and even the ocean behind him unraveled into oblivion. Though not yet fully claimed, Ikaris staggered, his abdomen impaled, pride Chitauri to behold, beside him the silent reappearance of the white-haired mutant, his presence a final prophecy. As Alex stood amidst the chaos, a voice, dark and ancient, slithered through his thoughts, repeating his own words with a cruel twist. "You're weak, but you still have to die." The spatial interference device, shattered in the last exchange, no longer restrained his movement. The space around Ikaris was now his domain. In a flash faster than the Eternal's own reflexes, Alex vanished and reappeared within striking range. As pain overwhelmed Ikaris, Alex summoned the full force of his cursed technique, amplifying his body with raw energy and control. With precision carved into his every motion, he drove his hand into Ikaris' face. Black and crimson lightning erupted around them, slicing through the air with deadly arcs, as the two godlike figures crashed into the ocean below like a falling star. The sea itself seemed to flee their wrath, ripped apart by the sheer force of their descent. The impact carved out a colossal crater beneath the waves, its center untouched by water, held in suspension by unseen force. At its core, Alex stood unshaken, one hand pressing Ikaris' head into the oceanic stone, power surging through him, cursed energy, reversal techniques, absorption all converging. Not even a being forged beyond mortal flesh could rise from beneath that overwhelming grip. Countless rifts of spatial severance carved, "If you strike me down, the wrath of the celestial shall descend upon you." Alex, his fingers weaving the fabric of hollow purple, replied with a voice laced in mockery. To ensure their harvest of mankind fuel for the slumbering god beneath the earth's crust and lead to cleanse the world once it is spent? A flicker of panic crossed Ikaris' face. "How do you know that?" he demanded, but Alex offered no reply. The sphere pulsed, nearly whole, an unholy convergence of cursed force and will. Dread consumed Ikaris as Circe's memory pierced his mind. He had to return, to preserve what was left of her within him. He thrashed against the crushing weight of gravity, desperate. But destiny would not wait. With a silent command, Alex unleashed the completed orb. In Ikaris' eyes wide with terror, it raced toward him, struck and consumed. The blow shattered his essence, burrowing downward, leaving only a void where once there was defiance. Even his eternal frame could not survive the Hollow's decree. The seabed groaned as it yielded a crater to the devastation. And there, in the cold abyss, Alex raised the fallen with unseen force, shaping a final sphere at his fingertip, a silent scalpel, and began to unravel the body of what once was Earth's mightiest. Slowly, a radiant core of golden energy ascended, humming with ancient might, its brilliance undiminished by the weight of millennia. A flicker of awe danced in Alex's eyes as he drew it into the folds of his pocket dimension, where an eternal stream of cosmic essence surged against his soul, evoking a rare and luminous smile. Though the promised offerings from distant realms had yet to arrive, an unexpected gift found its way to him first brought, not by fate, but by a quiet act of reverence. Without ceremony, Alex consigned the fallen vessel to the abyss, its descent swallowed in silence, and soared into the horizon with the calm of a sovereign. Distant memories whispered of another secluded sanctuary by the sea, drawing his thoughts forward. Far above, aboard the floating citadel, two watchers sat wordless before the truth revealed to them by the all-seeing eye of the heaven. From the deep had risen a figure untouched, unmarred, while the ancient sentinel of civilization was nowhere to be found. The verdict needed no voice. The Eternal had been neutralized. The one called Ikaris, forged in the fires of myth and bound to the arc of mankind's rise, had been overcome by a presence cloaked in white and silence. And more unsettling still, the ocean bore no scar upon him, not even a thread fully soaked. The divide between their powers was not a gap, it was an abyss. Nick Fury watched the battle footage on loop, his gaze fixed on the instant, the white-haired being surged from the depths like a divine tempest unleashed. What awakened within this creature that he could so thoroughly subdue the Eternal? He whispered, the question echoing in his mind like a prayer unanswered. Composure returned to him slowly, yet the weight of helplessness and emotion he was nearly immune to settled upon him like a silent curse. To challenge Ikaris was already to tempt fate. To overcome him so completely defied reason. But as a sentinel of the earth, Fury silenced his dread and turned to the pale-faced Coulson. Deliver word to the celestial-blooded. Ikaris has been overwhelmed, his light extinguished by the white-haired harbinger. Send them the fragments of truth, the visions of his fall, and the shadow that claimed him. Though their strength has waned, their nature remains singular. They may yet stand against this being, perhaps even bring about his unraveling, and summon the mind that walks the edge of reality. Reed Richards. Tell him we require instruments that bend space itself, weapons that might sever the Harbinger's grasp on energy. Every resource not essential to our survival shall flow into his sanctum. If this entity is without weakness, then we shall forge one. After ages apart, they gathered once more, yet the gathering was fractured, for their mightiest, the warrior of light, had been lost. The air was laden with grief, each eternal cloaked in mourning. Though time and belief had scattered them like stars across the cosmos, and the end of the deviants had left them drifting in solitude, they remained bound by threads deeper than blood. They were the last echoes of a forgotten genesis, and each soul was sacred. But now, one had been taken not by age nor fate, but by the remnant of their ancient enemy, a cursed descendant cloaked in white. The loss was unbearable. Among them, she who wields dominion over matter grieved most bitterly. Her companion of millennia lay neutralized, his light extinguished. Her heart, once gentle, now pulsed with sacred fury. He is gone, she spoke, her voice like a hymn of wrath. Struck down by an Omega whose name is ash on my tongue, we shall not let this stand. Yet beneath her rage, reason stirred. If even he could fall, what hope had she against the storm alone? A small figure cloaked in youthful illusion rose with fervor, her voice sharp as a blade of spirit. Then what do we delay for? Let us go now and bring divine judgment upon the one who dares upset the balance. For countless ages, the girl child known only by the name Sprite had kept a silent longing within her heart, yearning bound to the now fallen warrior. Grief turned to fire, and though her form was slight, her fury burned no less than the wisest among them. Yet in her haste, she failed to see what the wise discerned, the vast chasm of power that now separated them from the adversary. Beside her, another rose his frame like a mountain, hands trembling with wrath contained. Cosmic strength rippled through his fists, stronger even than the mightiest among their number. And with solemn conviction he proclaimed, "Should we rise as one, not even the Pale One shall withstand our wrath." But before the flames could consume them, the voice of their guide rang out like a bell in a storm. Their shepherd, the first among them, veiled in wisdom and sorrow, lifted her hand not in fear, but in understanding. She had felt the severing of Ikaris' soul. She had seen the fall of their strongest. And in that silence, deeper than vengeance, she knew. Even united, they now faced one whose dominion touched the edge of the infinite. It meant that Whitehair bore the divine weight of annihilation within his grasp. The revelation was staggering, though. The deviants had been extinguished. A remnant of their bloodline, a mutant, now stood cloaked in unimaginable might. Denial crumbled beneath the sheer truth that unfolded before their eyes, demanding belief. To unmake Whitehair, the voice echoed grave and resolute. We must weave our intent with sacred precision. Before the gathering could speak, Ajax's gaze fixed upon the vision cast in light a celestial duel between Alex and Ikaris, titans locked in balance. You have seen it! Whitehair meets Ikaris in perfect defiance. None among us possess such grace or strength. The only path lay through subtlety, through sacrifice. Circe alone must draw near, her sacred gift of transmutation piercing beyond the veil of his energy-bound form. Only she may transfigure what lies within. Yet even this hope, whispered and fragile, trembled beneath the shadow of the intelligence from above. Whitehair walks beneath the gaze of something far beyond mortal perception. His mind seemingly gifted with the vision of things to come o'er every move, every flaw laid bare before him. He will never approach Circe. That much is certain. To challenge him now, relying only on our current strength, would be to court ruin. The path forward demands patience, a plan woven in silence, and the summoning of greater forces still veiled in shadow. Only through divine misdirection can we hope to ensnare and ultimately neutralize him. This revelation did not fall from the heavens, it was delivered by those who seek to turn our war with the other into their gain. And so Ikaris, led by unseen hands, has already begun the pursuit, guided by the echoes of prophecy and peril. By the decree of the one who guides from beyond the veil, they are bound, there shall be no escape, no absolution without sacrifice. Thus, the reckoning begins. We shall convene with the silent order known as S.H.I.E.L.D., and within shadows deeper than death, we shall divine the means to bring an end to the white-haired one. As for S.H.I.E.L.D., their path is sealed.